Hey everyone! Today we're going to dive into a really simple story, but one with a huge impact. It's called The Wooden Bowl, and honestly, it's one of those tales that makes you stop and think, really think, about family, getting older, and the kinds of lessons we're passing down to our kids without even realizing it. So let's jump right in. And right away, this is the big question the story puts in front of us. Are we, right now, teaching our children how to treat us when we're old? It's a heavy one, right? It asks us to think about how our actions today might just come full circle. So just keep that in the back of your mind as we go through this. All right, so the story starts with a situation that a lot of families can probably relate to. An elderly father who's retired comes to live with his son's family. The son, his wife, and their young grandson. But, well, time takes its toll, and the grandfather isn't as spry as he used to be. The story describes him as frail. And all that really means is that he'd become weak. His body just didn't work the same way it once did. It's something that happens to a lot of us as we get older. And this weakness, well, it showed up in some really tough ways. His hands would tremble, his eyesight was getting blurry, and he wasn't so steady on his feet. These weren't just little things. They made even the most basic daily routine, like sitting down for a meal, a real challenge for him. Yeah, and you can imagine how that played out at the dinner table, right? Peas would roll off his spoon, milk would spill onto the tablecloth. These little accidents that, when they happen night after night, well, they started to really test the family's patience. So the mess started to get on the nerves of his son and daughter-in-law. It reached a point where one day the son just said to his wife, "We've got to do something about him. I've had enough of the spilled milk, the noisy eating, and the food all over the floor." Their patience had just worn out. They decided a change had to be made. So the couple puts their heads together and they come up with what they think is a solution. A way to deal with the mess. But as we're about to see, their fix ended up creating a way bigger, deeper problem. And the change was pretty harsh. While the rest of the family continued to eat together at the dinner table, they moved the grandfather to a small table in the corner, all by himself. The story even says he often had tears in his eyes while he ate. And to make it even worse, they didn't even give him a regular plate anymore. Instead, they gave him a wooden bowl. Now, their reason probably seemed practical to them. He'd broken a plate or two, and wood doesn't break. But that simple bowl, wow. It became this huge symbol of his loneliness, of how he was being treated. But here's the thing. Someone was watching all of this happen. The couple's 8-year-old son. He saw his grandpa eating alone in the corner every night. He never said a word about it, but he was watching. He was taking it all in. And then we get to the turning point of the whole story. One evening, right before dinner, the father looks over and sees his son on the floor, totally absorbed in a little project. He's got these small scraps of wood and he's carefully working on them. So the father, just curious, asks him gently, "Hey, what are you making?" And the little boy looks up from his work, gives his dad a sweet smile, and says, just as innocently, "Oh, I'm making a couple of little bowls for you and Mama." And then he finishes the thought, "To eat your food from when I grow up." And just like that, with one innocent sentence, that little boy showed his parents exactly what they had been teaching him. The parents were completely speechless, just wordless. You can just imagine that chilling moment, right? They instantly understood what they had done. The weight of their actions just crashed down on them. Their son didn't have to give them a lecture. He didn't have to yell or get upset. All he did was hold up a mirror with a few simple, innocent words, and they finally saw the real lesson they were passing down. And the change was immediate. That very same evening, the son went over to his own father, gently took his hand, and led him right back to the family table. And from that night on, the grandfather always ate with the family, spills and all. It didn't matter anymore. So, the clear moral of the story is pretty powerful and simple, right? Show love and kindness to your parents, always. Try to treat them with the same care they gave you when you were little. But I think the real power of this story goes even deeper than that. It leaves us with this kind of haunting question. Just like that little boy carving his bowls from scraps of wood, everything we do, every single day, is building the future that our children will one day create for us. And so the question we have to ask ourselves is, what exactly are we building?